Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about the Marvels, which is going to be the 33rd film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and a sequel to 2019's Captain Marvel, which went on to gross over $1 billion at the worldwide box office, being that Captain Marvel was sandwiched in between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. So it was not a shocker to anyone that the MCU would dedicate time and resources to making a sequel to Captain Marvel, since it had grossed over $1 billion at the worldwide box office. Now, we come to find out later on about the Captain Marvel sequel, which is now called The Marvels. It would actually focus on two other characters alongside Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, and we have obviously Teyonah Parris portraying Photon and Iman Vellani portraying Miss Marvel. Now, people must put this into context when they're thinking about what happened in 2019. So a lot of people like to brag that Captain Marvel made $1 billion at the worldwide box office, not mentioning very important key pieces of context within that. The reason why you bring up context when it comes to pieces of history is because it actually just warps the reality and perception that people, if they're trying to push a narrative on you, it actually changes that. Okay, so first things first. The first thing I want to bring up is when people bring up Captain Marvel made $1 billion, they conveniently forget that this movie was sandwiched in between Infinity War and Endgame, and it was really good strategic marketing from Marvel having this movie come out in between those movies, and they marketed the original Captain Marvel movie that came out back in 2019 as this movie that you had to go see. And at that current moment in time, before Endgame came out, most fans, casuals or hardcore fans, would have went and watched it regardless, right? So you also must keep in mind that when you're talking about the actual film Captain Marvel, which is my next point I'm going to bring up, is do you actually know anyone that really enjoys this movie? Like, I've talked to people in real life, obviously on my podcast throughout the years. I've never met someone that has actually enjoyed this movie. I mean, I watched the original Captain Marvel movie, and I thought it was just really bad. I'm being honest here. Like, I don't know why people suddenly just like to brag about the movie's money accolade when also conveniently forgetting very two important pieces of context within that itself, right? The fact that it was in between two prominent final Avengers movies at that current moment in time, and as well as the reception surrounding Captain Marvel, right? And if you didn't like Captain Marvel, people just called you an instaphobe, a bigot, and all that stuff, right? Which is really, really stupid. And also, I remember at that current moment in time when the other Captain Marvel movie dropped back in 2019, I mean, like Rotten Tomatoes, like conveniently switched up how their website worked. It was crazy back then, right? And this is something that I've mentioned on the Iron Man podcast, which you guys should check out. Links down below. You can watch it on Twitch, Rumble, and Twitter, actually, which is people will literally just speak with their wallets in a way that's like a lot of people are not really built to take like a lot of backlash with something, take their opinion, right? So instead of like saying how they feel about a movie or how they truly feel, they'll just literally not watch the next thing, right? Because rather than taking backlash, whether it be from your peers, your family members, or like on the internet, people would simply just not want to watch, obviously, right? Because that's obviously much more easier to do. So now we are getting the opening weekend box office projections for the Marvels, and it's really bad, actually. And you guys remember I did a video covering the MCU's TV department disaster about a few weeks ago. You guys should go check that video out where it details all the issues they've had from the TV point of view, and it's been really bad. And we're looking at the MCU's numbers dwindle. Now, give or take how the movies pan out box office wise, yes, certain numbers are impressive, but these movies need to be making profit. There's a lot of people out there that do not understand how this works, and every single time people try to explain it to them, they just use cognitive dissonance to purposefully not understand how this stuff works, even though it's physically explained how it works, right? So the Marvels has a budget of around, I think, north of like $250 some odd million. It's going to be around $300 million when you're factoring in just marketing. So this movie would literally need to take in $1 billion just to make profit. not making money, not breaking even. It needs to make actual profit at the box office, okay? So, the reason why the MCU would do that is because if a first movie panned out really well, they would dedicate more budget to it and more resources for the sequel because they're thinking, oh, the first one did really well, we'll do the same thing for the sequel, and it will just reap us more benefits putting more into the sequel, actually, right? But the thing here with the MCU is the reception around the MCU with Phase 4 and Phase 5, which started this year with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, has not been that good, right? And The Marvels is the final MCU movie coming out this year, and honestly, if this movie did fail, which predictions from the numbers is showing that it should, it will show the MCU. You need to actually start putting out some pretty good movies. I mean, the only MCU movie I thoroughly enjoyed was like Spider-Man No Way Home, and kind of like Shang-Chi had some moments in there, and Doctor Strange 2 kind of had some moments in there, but for the most part, the only MCU movie and show that I've really enjoyed was just Falcon and Winter Soldier and Spider-Man No Way Home, right? Outside of those two, nothing's really been hitting with the MCU. Like, yeah, numbers-wise, it's been kind of impressive, but those movies haven't been taking in a profit. No way. Like, not even close, actually, right? So, the MCU is going to need a pretty big overhaul, and there was another Variety article that came out detailing all those issues, and I have that video done, and I'm going to be releasing that to you guys very, very soon, detailing all their issues, actually. So, this article coming out of Variety was The Marvels aims for $60 million debut, one of the lowest MCU box office starts. So this opening is akin to like Black Adam and like The Flash. And if you had told me that the MCU would have opening weekend debuts as bad as something as like Black Adam and The Flash, you know, that's pretty bad actually. And then watch like a lot of these like shill media people simply just start saying, oh, it's men's fault that the movies are going to perform very bad. And it's like, well, this movie has 3 female leads, so shouldn't this be geared toward women watching? Oh, but they'll just blame men because they can't take criticism or take the abject failure that this movie is potentially going to be at the box office, and a disaster at that. And understanding that it's mostly men this stuff is geared towards, actually, and the women that do like it just the way it was before they started inserting in all this like bullshit in these movies about identity politics, right? So it's crazy. Let's get right into it. So The Marvels, the 33rd installment in Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe, is barreling toward an unfortunate box office distinction. The big budget superhero sequel is expected to generate just $16 million to $65 million from 4,000 North American theaters in its opening weekend, which would be one of the lowest debuts in MCU history. That badge currently belongs to 2008's The Incredible Hulk, $55.4 million, followed by 2015's Ant-Man, $57.2 million, not adjusted for inflation. So this movie's about to have a lower opening weekend than The Incredible Hulk and Ant-Man. The standalone Hulk movie was a rare misfire for Marvel, generating just $264.8 million worldwide, but Ant-Man eventually grossed enough $519 million globally to merit a trilogy. And that's the thing, though, is people are just not interested. If you're looking at just those numbers alone and from the pre-sale ticket numbers, it's you're just not going to have that guaranteed audience anymore like the MCU had, unless you're not putting out a product that people are genuinely enthusiastic about. Based on current projections, The Marvels will also brutally drop from its predecessor, 2019's Captain Marvel, which first introduced Brie Larson's Carol Danvers and launched to a heroic $153 million. That movie had extra momentum because of its prime release date between 2 of the biggest movies of all time, 2018's Avengers Infinity War and 2019's Avengers Endgame, and it became one of 7 Disney films that year to cross the $1 billion mark globally. With these estimates, the follow-up film will be lucky to gross half of that amount in its box office run. Yeah, because the landscape is massively changed since then. And people need to fully understand that. The landscape from that period to now is changed so much that you're not going to have that, oh, well, I gotta watch it now, because there's been so much that has come out in between that time period where the Disney Plus shows have kind of, the Disney Plus MCU shows have soured that for a lot of the MCU fans, where it's just been a collage of oversaturation from the MCU and a lot of it not being good, which makes people not want to care about some of the movie releases anymore, right? Because they'll know, well, if it's not going to be as good anymore, I'll just wait till I can just watch it on Disney Plus, actually. the Marvels could make up ground at the international box office, where it's projected to collect 80 million for a worldwide start of 140 million or more. But these comic book tentpoles don't come cheap. This MCU entry cost $220 million to produce and roughly $100 million to promote the film to audiences across the globe. Disney dropped a new trailer this week to combat the bad buzz around the Marvels and play up its connection to the Avengers, with appearances from Iron Man, Captain America, Valkyrie, and Thanos. However, most of the studio's marketing has positioned the Marvels as a standalone adventure in the interconnected Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, they dropped a final trailer for this movie, and it basically just showed everybody, even the studio themselves, to a certain degree, might think this. Hey, remember when things were good? When we had Captain America, Iron Man, Thanos. Remember when things were good? Well, yeah, here's this dog shit I want you guys to start consuming. Nia DaCosta, who also directed Candyman, is directing The Marvels, making the 33-year-old the youngest filmmaker and first black woman to helm a Marvel movie. The action-adventure spotlights a trio of spandex heroes: Larson as Captain Marvel, Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau, and Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, who are tasked with saving the universe from forces that seek to destroy it. The Marvels has not been embraced by critics. It holds a 52% on Rotten Tomatoes, though reviewers have praised the breezy runtime. It's the shortest MCU movie to date. Yeah, the movie, I think, clocked in at over 2 hours, and they've managed to get it down to, I think, an hour and 30 minutes, actually. And Vellani's turn as Miss Marvel. Variety's chief film critic Owen Gilberman criticized the film as skittery and episodic, going on to say it feels like a sequel mirrored in entropy. So yeah, I mean, Rotten Tomatoes critic scores don't really matter, obviously, as much. I mean, people know how much BS that is. They literally changed how the website worked just because of Captain Marvel back then. And the crazy part about this is the MCU, the way it's been failing recently, as far as like people not interested in their movies, there's no one to blame but themselves. Their bad creative decision, their bad way of how they're pushing this like mythical new audience they're trying to grab with these movies. It's just not working, and I can't wait till there's a massive overhaul here. Am I gonna watch The Marvels? I was gonna watch it opening weekend on Thursday, but I'm gonna have to probably check this movie out on the following Tuesday, because I don't want to be a guy where if I don't watch it, I say it's garbage. I've never been that way ever. I'm always gonna be someone where if I've watched it, I'll give my opinion on it. If I haven't, then I will not give my opinion on it. So most likely, just saying maybe, I'm going to be able to watch this movie coming up on this Tuesday, and we'll be able to discuss it on the Iron Man podcast, hopefully, if all things go according to plan. But yeah, if this movie fails at the box office, I'm not surprised. You know, superhero movies have not done so well this year at all. I mean, the only one that's done really well has just been potentially Guardians 3, and even that is kind of muddied in some, you know, you'd have to kind of like basically have this huge line of copium to say that movie was profitable at the box office, despite the actual number of the budget surrounding it and the marketing budget attached to it as well. So, are you guys going to be checking out The Marvels? And did you guys like the first Captain Marvel movie? I did not, and I thought it was pretty fucking bad. So, if the sequel performs worse than the first one, then you know that the reason why the first Captain Marvel movie did as well is because of luck. It had nothing to do with freaking BS that the media tries spinning, and we already had to show media trying to say BS like, oh, the movie's negative press around it is just from white men and all that BS that they try to, you know, put on their audience. It's always the audience's fault. The movies end up not doing so well, not the actual people making the product. Am I right? So, thank you guys for checking out this video. I am MSK, aka Master Swag King. Like, comment, and subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. And I'll see you guys later. See you guys signing out, guys. Peace. Deuces.